my life when we had to have an entire police force. So maybe
They
back
killed
in
9
the day,
people in
maybe
Dayton,
back
Ohio.
in the day, some KKK members defended somebody, but to paint them in a light that they're suddenly a great group because they did one thing.
No, I'm talking about my experience with them.
Yeah,
I got to be true to my experience with them. Your experience with them is one in which they did something that was wrong. If they attacked you at breakfast and tried to threaten your life,
that's all on camera.
then that's wrong.
Yeah, I
remember that.
Breakfast,
Well, America's experience with them is also sending in Antifa guys end up in jail for this bullshit. They end up putting other people in jail. They end up committing suicide because they're in over their heads. And then the Dayton, Ohio shooting was 9 people dead, including the shooter himself. I've counted about 17 deaths that come from Antifa rhetoric and Antifa violence.
I don't know about that.
They're a domestic terror group. Pardon me?
That's more than black people.
I don't know about that.
Right. Okay, look, I have a bad feeling the cops are going to bust this soon. Let's try to get some tangible, hard, concrete things that could help the black community in this country. Give me.
Dear sister, I mentioned one. There has to be honest spotlight casting on realities that fall outside of our ideologies. We have to be candid across the board. We got to be candid about the militarism at the top. We got to be candid about ugly treatment on the bottom. You got to be candid about the wealth inequality. You got to be candid about the issue of personal responsibility.
So free speech.
You got to be. Oh, absolutely. You got to have free speech, but without injurious harm.
Okay, so Candace should be able to talk at any college.
Oh, sure. There's no doubt about that. Now, of course, see, college is a different place than a community. And what I mean by that is that colleges do have the right to decide who is going to speak there relative to
and they
what
take
the
federal
issues
funding and they decide that it's only going to be leftist
but
politicians.
it's got to be ideologically and politically diverse. But they have a right to do that. But when it comes to community, that's very different. You have a right to speak any community, any corner, and ought to be protected there as long as you don't engage in injurious harm.
Right. I've never, ever advocated for violence. I've never been violent towards any person. I say what I believe. And I think that you'll find, and this is why I think the media is so obsessed with painting us as they did after we had our debate, is that we actually agree on more than we disagree. I think what we disagree on is how we fix it, right? So we totally disagree on how we fix it.
We have a critique of the establishment in both parties. See, your support of Trump means you have an indictment of the conservatism in the Republican Party vis-a-vis its establishment.
That's correct. I think he represents a new form of conservatism, and when he called it a swamp, he was being honest. I mean, there's just people on the left and the right. We were all losing.
But the problem is, see, this is part of the contradiction, though. But when you come in, and then Trump, his attitude toward Wall Street, his attitude toward the military-industrial complex, they expand. They become even more powerful. You see.
So if my focus,
he has to hit them head on. He didn't have the courage to hit them. That's my left-wing critique. He doesn't have the courage to hit them head on, but he can spend all his time talking about precious Mexicans and Muslims and other folk.
Well, good for the illegals. Got to go. I mean, you know they're harming Black America.
Demonize the precious Mexican
no,
brothers
don't call
and
them.
sisters.
Don't call
He doesn't
them
demonize
precious.
Mexicans.
Mexicans.
He does.
He talks about the ones
Illegals.
crossing
No,
the
you're
border.
talking about all of them as criminals, all of them as so-and-so. That's just wrong.
First off,
that's wrong.
Foremost, I'm going to say this. First, I'm going to say about illegal immigration, period. We know that under Barack Obama, the United States commissions did a report to determine who was harmed by illegal immigration. They determined, and this was a report done by both sides, that Black American men between the ages of 18 and 21 are the people that hurt the most.
Especially in California.
Because they're the ones that have to compete. And when they come into these neighborhoods and they allot it, and he's correct to say, we know that the majority of the drugs coming over the border, where are they going into? Our neighborhoods, right? So to me, it is so crucial for Black Americans to understand that an illegal, anybody that's promoting for open borders and for telling you to flood them in are not the people that are trying to help Black America. They know that we are the ones going to have to compete for them.
Why wouldn't Trump say that rather than call them rapists and criminals?
Right, listen.
They're not rapists. They're coming to find to get jobs.
A disproportionate number of the illegals crossing the border are rapists.
They are. It's weird.
80% of the girls who cross the border get raped on the journey.
80%.
They take birth control on the way over the border.
That's just
it's
a fact.
It's just an accepted part of the transition.
Yeah, and that's why it's weird.
Mexico doesn't have room in prisons. They encourage criminals to cross the border.
Does that mean the 11 million precious illegals in this country? Do you think it's 30?
I think it's 30.
Well, I think most people traditionally say 11 or 12 million. But of those 11 and 12 million, what percentage of those you think are rapists?
A disproportionate number, more than they are represented in the population.
Just in general committing crimes.
Well, criminal. He says he called them criminals and rapists, so it'd be both.
Criminals.
I don't know, the way he talks about him is so vicious. It's so
I'm sorry, but if you go
it's
into
so
any of these
callous.
sanctuary
But as
cities
a
and you
Christ-
see
as
the
a
amount of
Christ-
crimes that are being committed because
No,
they're
but-
sanctuary, you can't park your car
But-
in San Francisco for 5 minutes without it getting broken into. Happened to me. I was there literally 5 minutes. Came outside.
But that's
all
been
of our
true
stuff.
for a long time in a lot of hoods, a lot of
Come on.
communities.
California was not the way that it is now.
Well, I'm talking about other communities,
Yes.
other communities.
Listen, I'm
Yeah,
not. You're never going to hear me make a blanket statement that all people are this or that. I'm not
Right,
going to say
right.
that all Mexicans are coming to this country. Some of them are literal children that are being used by people, adults that
That's
are trying to get in
true.
here. Like
That's
you cannot. He should be careful not to issue those blanket statements. And listen,
He's
here's what
gotta
I'll
pull
say.
back
By the
on
way,
that. That's ugly
but he
language.
has, because you know what? Then he was a candidate. Now he's a president, and he hasn't done those sort of sweeping statements since then. And people are holding on to it because now he's actually proven himself to be a pretty stand-up president. He's delivering results. He hasn't said anything super harmful to anybody at all. And I agree that illegal immigration is a problem that needs to be tackled. So I'm willing to look over a sentence that he said while he was on the campaign trail and look at what he's actually
Since he said
doing.
a number of times, but yeah.
He didn't say it a number of times. He said it one time in a speech. He says at Fish Breeze, he said they're not giving us their best people, and that's a fact. If they are their best people, the government would be fighting to keep them in their countries because they'd be driving up their economy. Obviously, they're not giving us their best people.
Well, it depends on what you mean by best, too. Though. If it's just best
Least
in terms of
Least
professionals,
likely
in
to
terms of
commit crimes.
educated,
Yeah,
and
least
stuff
likely to
like
commit
that.
crimes. If they were super educated
No, but
people
you
that
got
were
some
doctors and
professional
lawyers.
and educated folk in this country and other countries who commit a lot of crimes
We're
too. though.
splitting. I think we're
Yes, but
splitting
that's
hairs here.
anecdotal.
Well, I'm agreeing with you that we have to be careful and not demonizing an entire group of people.
Absolutely.
But I hope that you do understand that illegal
Just-
immigration is something that really harms Black communities first and foremost, and that's a proven fact done by a report that was done under Barack Obama.
But see, I would want to put the stress not so much on that competition. That competition is real. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But my stress is much more on, first, the businessmen and women who come in wanting to exploit and walking away with profits that are just obscene. And this is where I'm with Brother Bernie, as you know, right? I'm much more concerned about that top 1% that comes in a variety of different colors who are getting off with obscene wealth and resources, while those of us who are in the middle classes, working classes, and poor fighting for the crumbs.
Well, then I got to tell you
Fighting for the
something.
crumbs.
You're with him, and if he was
I don't
elected,
see Trump talking about a critique of Wall Street the way Bernie does.
If Bernie was elected tomorrow, all of those Wall Street people would be sending their money overseas, and they would get out of here
That's the
as
problem.
fast as possible on their planes.
We
because
all
they have
agree.
the resources to. And you
No,
know what
And
happened?
we would see
You know
how
what
big
happened?
of gangsters they really
No,
are.
you know what
They're
happened?
not committed to the
suddenly
country, they're committed to their
then
own
Correct.
cash.
You want to know how
Correct.
we would see it? We'd all be broke. All of the markets would crash, and there'd be nothing here because we don't have the entrepreneurial steer. The people that are entrepreneurs are going to leave for countries that allow them to be rewarded based on their hard work. Nobody is going to stay in the country. They say they're going to tax me 75%, I'm leaving. Period. Right? So then you're going to have a system where you have a bunch of people that are standing behind Bernie. The do-nothing people are going to have no money to go around because there is no entrepreneurship. The rich people have fled. It's exactly what happened to Chicago. We know that Bernie's idea of socialist policies does not work. It cannot be implemented. The grievance behind it might be accurate. The application of it does not work. So we have to come up with a better solution then. We're going to take it from the rich people.
But just think of what you just said, though, sister. You're saying that Wall Street has got America with a gun to its head.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you said it. If in fact Bernie were elected, they would leave the country, no commitment to the country,
That's just common sense.
and watch the country go under.
I would leave too. I'm not Wall Street. That's common sense. If they're telling me they're going to tax me
Are
at 75%.
you saying that your commitment to America is such that you would rather leave the country with
No,
money
my
and watch
commitment to
America
myself
go
and my
under?
family is enough, but I'm not letting you take 75% of my hard work as a girl who came from absolutely nothing and grew up in a rat-infested apartment.
Eisenhower
No
had higher
government.
levels,
Do
my
not care.
sister.
I'm answering your question.
Eisenhower had
And you
higher
answer my
levels.
question. As a
Would you
girl who
leave
came
under
from nothing and
Eisenhower?
worked for everything that I have, no government is coming in and taking 75% of my income. I would leave. It's not a commitment to an America. It's a commitment to myself and a commitment to common sense.
So, but what I'm saying is, so if you had lived under Dwight Eisenhower's regime where they had 80%,
They had
you would have
80%.
left America?
No one paid that.
No.
That was like a
No,
few
no,
movie
they had
stars.
80%, brother.
No one was paying that.
Under
though.
FDR, they had even higher.
I have
You
to
would
look
have
it
left
up.
FDR.
paid that.
I'm going to plead ignorant because I'd have to look up
We-
because
we'd have to
that
check that out.
sounds high to me.
I'm
80%
telling you,
does not sound
oh
accurate,
yes,
so I'm
it
gonna
was for
plead
that
ignorance
1%.
because I can't
It
debate
was
something.
gradations. You know, it was gradations.
I would
It
have
was
to
for the
plead
1%.
ignorance.
It was
but this
for the
was back when
1%
that
I'm talking about.
1%
It was for
was
the
like
1%. It wasn't for everybody now.
In infinitesimally small percent of the population. Movie stars, moguls were paying those.
90% it was.
Yes, But I think everyone agrees. No one likes the $500 million CEO salary when the people on the assembly line are paying 30. The problem is when the government tries to regulate that shitty situation, they make it even worse. The government makes everything worse. You were talking at the beginning about this.
So what do we do then? How do you recognize the dignity of the worker if the only alternative is if we do something and intervene, the well-to-do walk off with their wealth and watch everything
One thing we do is close the borders.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we actually put more wealth back into the country, close the borders, take care of our people first, #America first, right? What he's talking about, and create opportunities for the people that came from nothing like I did to become wealthy, based on their own hard work and their good ideas. I don't need to hate the rich man. I want to learn how to become the rich man.
Well, this is where we have a difference. If it were the case that when we say America first, we were saying American poor and working people first.
We are.
We're not saying that. No, wealth inequality has gone up.
No.
It's gone up.
Yes, but
the tax
they've
cuts
both gone up.
Would you agree the tax cuts help the rich much more than it did for the working people?
No, I would disagree.
You think that Trump's tax cuts worked?
The corporations that got those tax cuts, I have two sisters. Both of them then instantly got bonuses and raises because of the tax cuts. I have a cousin who works for Starbucks.
I'm rich. They were murder on me.
Who works for Starbucks. She got a raise instantly. So you're saying the corporations got the tax cuts. The people work for the corporations. That's what you trickle down economics.
Yeah, but trickle down doesn't trickle the way it should. Nah,
so I just answered your question. Every single person in my family received benefits because of that, and they are not wealthy by any stretch of any imagination. One of them was working at Starbucks, and she got a raise because of the tax cuts. And all of them said,
but how big was that raise? How big was that raise?
See, now you're splitting hairs. You asked me a question, I answered it. So for her, you might say the raise is small. Okay, it was for her. It was
very
$1.
Small, but the raise at the top. The taxes that they got at the top were gargantuan. Then we got your precious sister getting a little increase.
She was happy about it. So you.
But people been happy. People can be happy for all kinds of things.
She was happy about it. So my sister was happy about her bonus. My cousin was happy about her raise at Starbucks. My other sister was happy about her bonus. So we don't need Bernie to be aggrieved for them when they're happy.
Thatcher used to talk about this, where they said the gap is the worst it's ever been, and Thatcher goes, "Yes, the gap is bigger now, but the poor are making more money." So yes, the gap increases and the rich are richer, but the poor also got richer.
Well, you gotta look
and a lot of lefties would rather the gap was smaller and both were poor
they want
than for this to be up here.
Their idea of equality is everybody be poor.
Oh no!
Look at every policy that Bernie is pitching. It basically means we will not have equality until everyone is poor.
But Bernie is not calling for absolute equality. He's calling for fairness. He doesn't want everybody to have exactly the same thing.
You can't rob people. You can't rob people because they made it and they were successful. And by the way, he's not saying just the corporations. He's talking about people that live within a certain income bracket, right? And I refuse, as someone that has worked for everything that I have, someone that travels 6 days a week to work, I refuse to give my money up for people that I know. I have relatives that are on welfare, that sit on their butts all day and do absolutely nothing. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry.
But you have to agree, most of the money that we pay to the government by means of taxes go to the military. It's 61 cents for every dollar. When you pay taxes, the first person you look at ought not be the person on welfare. The first person you look at ought to be Pentagon, State Department, marketeers, oligopolies, monopolies who have contracts making gobs of money with guns.
Okay, so let's just shrink it all. Let's shrink it all.
If we could shrink the military section of the budget. Now, in order to do that,
welfare.
We'd have to go against Trump.
Welfare.
We got to go against Trump for that.
And welfare. I'm sorry.
But we hardly even have a collective right to welfare anymore after Bill Clinton in 1996. That's what he did. He undercut the right of citizens to have an automatic right to welfare.
What's great about municipalities?
So they got different programs that's in place, but it's no longer welfare as traditionally understood. He ended welfare as we traditionally understand it. But when you talk about the corporate welfare at the top, that has been increasing exponentially, and they are corrupt elites who have politicians in both parties who they are controlling.
Trump is not getting controlled right now. That's pretty obvious.
He's a stick of dynamite.
He can't get a fair shake in the media, and that lets you know that he's going against corporate interests.
The media is not the place to look because the media has its own blindness in terms of militarism. Has the media said anything about the 7 wars that we have involved in?